In this recording, we are going to acknowledge two great women who ultimately are no longer alive. They were qualified for an A plus, were an A plus still possible. In a matter of days, they moved from being a happily married woman to a tense situation where they are not only mourning, even more than us, but used diplomacy, firm diplomacy, to give their slain husbands a befitting send-off. We will start with Mrs. Crisabella Oko. Start with Mrs. Crisabella Oko for a very simple reason that her incident occurred first. Crisabella Oko just believed that her husband was making a normal constituency visit. She must have gone through hundreds, maybe a few thousands such experiences. She must be used to her husband leaving her in Nairobi, saying that he is going to his constituency to visit his constituents. So she had no issues with her husband being alone with his electorate in Koru. Electorates can be very demanding, and a spouse of a politician could say or do something which can be very expensive politically. The other reason is that most politicians would want to shield off their families. Most of them would want to shield off their families from publicity. How many people know Mrs. Mutula Kilonzo Jr.? How many people know Mrs. Sakaja? And how many people know Mrs. Ishungwa among many wives of politicians or even spouses of politicians? Another thing that many politicians forget was a visit to the constituency, especially if you are close to the president or the state house. Kipkalia Kones was so busy with state duties that he never noticed that both Nick Salat's brother and Nicholas Biwott were undermining him in his constituency. So it is understandable, quite understandable, for Mrs. Oko to let her husband to travel home and meet his electorate. Now, let us look at things from her perspective. She knew nothing about state tension, or if she knew, she must have come across very many such instances that she must have thought that they were normal. But let us just assume that she had no idea at all. Suddenly, her husband cannot be traced. You see, in politics, tension is there daily and daily. But supposing she had an idea of the tension that was going on, if at all she had that idea, then she must have concluded that this is the normal tension that goes with her husband's work, and so she may have just let it go the way others do go. So, but this time things happened suddenly. Then suddenly she notices that she cannot trace him. She consults everybody. She consults friends. She consults politicians. She consults relatives. She consults neighbors and so on. Who knows? Maybe she even consulted the shadow leader of opposition. I hope you understand what I mean by shadow leader of the opposition. I'm not talking of opposition in parliament. In the land of family, polygamy is Greek. But I guess that women don't accept polygamy. Many women don't accept polygamy. It is easier for the junior wife to accept polygamy than the senior wife to accept polygamy. Anyway, desperate times call for desperate moves. We can say that she called the other lady and asked, "Is Mzee with you?" Let us now move to the time that the body is found, in the manner that it was found. You know your husband. You know that he has gone through very many tiresome moments, a dozen times more tiresome than this. So, yes, it is quite possible for the days that she had stayed with him. And you know, women are more than men. They can see things even without being spoken. She can even sense that the husband is going through a tiresome time. But in case she didn't notice it, she must have come to a conclusion that this is not as tiresome as previous occasions when things were more tense. So she knows that he has faced challenges from across board. She knows that he has faced challenges politically, family-wise, business-wise, and so on and so forth. Family-wise, it was so serious because OUKO was, his biological father was not even a Luo, but he was brought up in that family. And for people who are Luo and other Western tribes will tell you that such things bring tension, especially if the boy who came with the mother happens to be more successful than those of the home. That home was very successful. Imagine, one of the brothers was a senior district commissioner, and he was even fit to be a provincial commissioner. Those are very senior posts, but if you consider that one with what OUKO was, then that one seems to be a small job. We have some families where you become a sergeant, an NCO, and people take it that you are very senior. But to them, senior deputy commissioner of police, no, senior deputy provincial commissioner, senior deputy provincial commissioner, senior district commissioner. You know, they have brought these assistant commissioners, deputy commissioner, and county commissioner. They are confusing. I'm trying to reason with the old system. A senior district commissioner was a very senior person at that time. But if you compare that seniority with the seniority of what OUKO was, then you see that that is just a small job. The widow knew that OUKO had no suicidal tendencies. The widow knew that he had over a dozen worse situations, and he never even contemplated anything negative. Yet, here you are, not allowed to mourn, but a very funny theory is being given out. That he took out a gun, shot himself, and before dying, he took out a jerrycan full of petrol, poured on his body, and lit it. Gaifafa. You see, if we go back to, if we still talk about her, she's shocked. She's shocked. 1 minute she's happily married. The next minute she's all over looking for her missing husband. The third, she's now a widow. And if that is not enough, some very funny theories have come in, which can never happen. Well, let me take it this way. When when a bullet goes to your head, there are some very vital organs. If someone shot you your leg, or somebody shot you your hand, you can die of bleeding, but after bleeding for a very long time. But we have some vital organs, which like the heart and the brains. If a bullet penetrates your heart, or if a bullet penetrates your brain, you have a fraction of a second to live. A fraction of a second. Now here, Crisabella is getting the theory that her husband shot her himself, took out a jerrycan. Now taking out a jerrycan, pouring yourself with the anyway, there is somebody who said that there is nothing like a perfect crime, because someone would have even said that he poured what do you call petrol on himself, lit himself, seeing that he's taking long to die, then took out a. But you see, they were in a hurry to cook up stories, and they said that. Then she has to do all that within a matter of days, moving from happily married to a lost husband to now a widow, not just a widow. People kill him and then deface his name by trying to say that he killed himself. That is very bad. But you see, it was normal those days. They even took a Catholic padre and said that he left Narok, moved all the way to Nairobi, then to Naivasha, only to kill himself. And that is how the world was those days. That is how the world was those days. I want to tell people, especially men, that the activities we do, let us respect our families. Let us respect our families, because when you die, we have had so many cases where, can I take a good example of Kajwang, Otieno Kajwang? He died while he was at a certain lady's house. Now the widow, you just imagine what goes through there. She's mourning, she's doing whatever, and then the circumstance that the husband has died makes her also have more problems. You don't care. You are gone. Hata isemekane nini, you are gone. You are no longer with them, with us. But in this case, OUKO did not die in a lodging house or anything, but I just added that to make sure that men understand that you do those funny things, the innocent person suffers. Then we come to the funeral. During the funeral, Moi attends the funeral. Yes, of all people, Moi attended the funeral. That was very brave of Moi. Whatever happened to Jomo Kenyatta at Russian hospital, Moi did not regard that. Remember, it was such an environment that Jomo decided not to go to Rusinga. Another occasion, when Jomo Kenyatta attended the funeral mass for Tom Mboya in Nairobi, the tension and whatever was happening, Jomo decided not to go to Rusinga for the funeral. But Moi decided to go to, Moi decided to attend the funeral in Kor. That was, I've had people who were there. I've discussed with a lot of people. It was very brave of him. That one we have to say. Then comes the issue of university students. Then it comes to the issue of the university students. Nowadays, there are over 40 public universities. But at that time, it was, I don't even think it had even reached 3. If, God forbid, something could have happened to him at that time, it would have been Russia episode 2. You know, during the Russia hospital, the security that was guarding Jomo Kenyatta killed a lot of, fired into the crowd. Maybe if anything would have happened bad that time, a lot of things would have happened. A lot of casualty would be there. But Mrs. Crisabella Oko calmly requested those making noise to give her husband a befitting send-off. She said, "If you love the man in the coffin as I do, let us give him a befitting send-off." If you love the man as I do, a very strong message. This moved the university students and they allowed him to be buried peacefully. A few days later, the OUKO family was summoned to State House, Nakuru. I have used the word summon because summoning means you are called and you are not given an opportunity to refuse to go. Many people have expressed disappointment in the past about Crisabella and the Oko family visiting State House Nakuru. But take note, any false move at that time, and she had the kids still in college. The kids were already half orphan. There was no need to make them full orphans. So she did a very good thing and she should be honored, even if it is posthumous. Some people say, and I tend to agree with them, that, when Jacob Juma died, while they're saying hiyo taa betri ikiisha, hiyo torch betri ikiisha, mtaona. But our neighbors to the south, the Luo, handle things differently. They just buried him well. And quite a good number of people who are on the wrong side on his death suffered. I'll just give an example of one, Ezekiel Yugi, whose last words before he died he said in Luo that whatever I did it under instructions. Well, maybe he was referring to other things, but most of us thought it was this matter. Now, the second lady that we are honoring today is Mrs. Masinde Muliro. Mrs. Masinde Muliro was a Zulu from South Africa. So Masinde Muliro did not just come out of South Africa with a degree, but came up with a spouse from the Zulu kingdom. She stood with him, especially bearing in mind that she was a non-Kenyan. Other Bukusu leaders, political leaders, were compelled to have a local wife, a second local wife, preferably a Bukusu. I think Mukisa Kitui also resisted this, but I have to be corrected. She stood, that is Mrs. Masinde Muliro, stood by Muliro through two different liberation times. She stood with him during the she stood with him during the independence move time and also the second liberation. I am not in a position to state which is more harsher than the other, but I may understand if one said that the second liberation was tougher for her than even the first one. Not only her, Masinde Muliro and all other persons who were in the second liberation. Because harassment from a stranger, that is the colonialist, is more understandable than harassment from a fellow citizen. Just like you may understand and you may even forgive a colonialist harassing you, a British colonialist, than a fellow African government harassing you because you belong to another political inclination. She stood by him, and we now understand the saying that behind every successful man, there is a woman. Now, she and one of their sons go to JKIA to drive her husband to their city residence when one of his aides come to say that he has died. Just like that. Imagine you are parking there, you're waiting for the people to come out of the plane, take your family, the head of your family, to his home, uh, but then somebody comes and says, you know something, he has died. Imagine Mrs. Masinde Muliro, how she viewed Masinde Muliro as the person who would have told her of the trip. This is how we went for the trip. This is how we were. This is the person who would have given her gifts from London. Hmm? Gifts from London. The person who would have given her jokes. Imagine, as they were going through Mombasa Road, this man would have been giving jokes to the family and saying how things are and whatever, and they are laughing. And everybody's opening his or her box to see the presents that they have been brought from abroad. But what happened? It is now weeping as they go through, as they maneuver through, navigate through Mombasa Road. That is too much, isn't it? Now to the point. People castigated Mwambu Muliro and his mother for not allowing for autopsy. We have some funeral prefects, very many Luhyaland, Luoland, and etc., but almost unheard of in Kikuyu land. Someone who played a very small role, if indeed dictating everything. These are the people you saw during my second cousin, Vice President Wamalwa Kijana's, somebody coming at it. He says, so Mwengere, just because he's the clan chairman of the Vaengere clan, comes and starts dictating things. Such a person is insisting on doing all the decisions, and everyone else is there to implement without questions. And if there is any question, it is a question you want to get clarification. How do you want it? Have I done it the way you want it? How is just that? And especially if they are telling telltale signs that his death was not natural. But let me ask you a question. Is there a natural death in Luhyaland? Even if you died in Mutongwe Ferry with a dozen more people, the Luhyas will take it this way, that the ferry was sunk because of the Luhya fellow. And the rest, the 11 people, were collateral damage. That is how lawyers would see the film. A lawyer, even me, I'm waiting to be bewitched. That is what usually happens among lawyers. Now let us start with Mwambu Muliro. First and foremost, he is mourning his father. Let us start with Mwambu Muliro. First and foremost, he is mourning his father. Simultaneously, he was there for his mother. I know from experience, especially when I used to do video recordings, that when the father dies, the eldest son has to be very strong for the mother. Remember, they were supposed to be 3 in a car making merry. Imagine 3 of them in a vehicle. The head of the family is telling them how the trip was and whatever. They are laughing all the way along Mombasa Road. But what's more, those accusing him did not even mind about Masinde Muliro. Just as I said that lawyers, they don't even, okay. I'm laughing because I remember just this week, Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen was saying that somebody attended a funeral for a Legio Maria person. Now the portrait there was with that fellow dressed in Legio Maria. But the politician thought that it was a woman. So he says, me and the lady here said, no, the person who has died is a man. So you say those accusing Mwambu did not even mind about Masinde Muliro. They just wanted to make political mileage. Just like most Luhya funerals, mostly the northern Luyas. Who are these northern Luyas? These are the Bukusus, Kabras, Tachoni, and even the Ndombi. Mrs. Masinde Muliro based majorly on 2 points for not wanting a postmortem on the late leader. 2 points. The first point was people don't know how postmortems are conducted. One is opened up like a cow in a slaughterhouse. Imagine observing such for a close relative. She had observed the same with her own child. She did not want a double nightmare. Even her own child, who knows, she may even have been still having those nightmares even at the time when her husband died. Number 2, which is very important, she said that if anyone can guarantee her that the real killers of her husband can be found, then she was willing to do a postmortem. Allow me to repeat that. She said, that is number 2, that she does not mind agreeing to that if somebody can guarantee her that the real killers of her husband can be found, then she was willing to do a postmortem. These people who are making a lot of noise did not even care who killed that person or anything. In fact, in many politicians, they feel it is good because now there is a political vacancy, the by-election will come and whatever. So even if something like that would have happened, they still would have come and said, you see, this woman did not even mind her husband. She had to delay something like that. Let me say this. By virtue of my office, that is why sometimes when people argue with me, I try to understand that by virtue of my office, I came to learn that the authority had a fear that is coming to Kenya would make Ford be united, and a united Ford would win the election. This is what I've been saying. that some people disagree with me, but I do understand because I had access to information that they did not have. And I always reason that would they have come across what I came across, most likely they would not argue with me. So I understand. And what we know is that I came to learn that authority had a fear that his coming back to Kenya would make Ford be united, and a united Ford would win the elections. Remember, he was reluctant to go there, but those people in abroad insisted on him going because they had a theory that would make Ford be united. Also, Wajakoya, Inspector Wajakoya, passed some information to him, information that Wajakoya says that he cannot disclose because he has an active case somewhere. Even if it is an active case somewhere, my comment here would be, let Wajakoya say it when he wants. And if he doesn't want to say, it is better we do not get information than get information that has conditions. Let him, at the appropriate time, should he decide to tell us, let it be voluntary. Let it be voluntary. Remember, Wajakoya was an inspector of police in the special oh, sorry. We used to be called Form 6 Inspector of Police. He was a Form 6 Inspector of Police, and I was a Form 6 Inspector of Police. So we should wait for that. And what was decided from what I heard was that, what I read was that he was not to die in a foreign country. He was not to die in a foreign country, since foreign countries then had forensic labs which were superior to Kenya. And what even after all, it would be open and the truth would have been disclosed. But since his death was connected to the political power people of Kenya at that time, since his death, they would have wanted the autopsy to be done in a condition that they can control. So, Mr. Wajuaji, who said that you are very annoyed because whatever, even if the autopsy would have been done, it would have confused us. An agent whose name I don't know, because in the reports that I read, he was given a, what do you call, number, code sign, they call it code sign. An agent shadowed him from Kenya to UK and back. The agent gave an air hostess something to mix, either in food or drink, or even both of them. Whatever that was to activate a heart attack. Even with the technology then, it would have been a challenge to get the drug, because if what do you call, a postmortem was done, if a postmortem was done to him, it would have been hard to get the drug, and the postmortem would have just said that he had a heart attack. I'm not. By the way, I went to Nairobi Technical, and we never did biology in Form 1. So what I know is that sisi watu wa overall, what I know is that such drugs would activate would even clot the blood, or even would activate, or even would block would do whatever. So the postmortem would say the blood clotted. The postmortem would say the vein blocked. The postmortem, but there is no place where the postmortem would have said that the vein stopped because of a drug that is called whatever. It will just say that the heart stopped because the vein blocked. Even with the government then, it would have been a challenge to find a cooperating institute. It was really hard for the family or even people who are interested in the case to find a situation which would assist them in the case. Remember, before he even reached the mortuary, a postmortem, before even his body was taken to the mortuary, a postmortem report was already out. Lastly, look at the recent cases of Boniface Karaoke and Albert Ojwang. Before the time the killer would be found, like now, I'm very sure that, especially case of Boniface Mwangi Karaoke, by the time the killer would be found guilty, it will be an emotional drain to the family. Remember going all the time to court, whatever. You are not paid. You take your own money from wherever you are. Where does Ojwang come from? Rongo. Every time going to Rongo, a family going to from Rongo to Milimani. Where do they stay for those days? What do they? And it is also very emotional. That is another thing. A prolonged murder inquest is drains the family financially, but most importantly, emotionally. Yet again, if Masinde Muliro inquest would have been open, most likely it was the air hostess who would be caught, or even the shadowy agent. What about those who organized for it? They would not be. Just like OCS Talam may be convicted, but was he the mastermind? No, he was not. So that is why today we felt that we should honor these great two women who later went, they are in the life of, they are in the paradise. Thank you, Mama Zetu.